Kelly Tripucka was a versatile and athletic player who could drive by slow defenders, post up smaller defenders, and shoot over most, or to be put in simple terms, a walking bucket at 6'6", while also having a filthy mid-range game, helping him become an All-American and a two-time NBA All-Star. This is a look back on Kelly Tripucka's career. Kelly Tripucka is the son of former NFL quarterback and Frank Tripucka, who was also a pro baller. And funny enough, he also had a kid that went on to play in the NFL as well named Travis Tripucka. But Kelly Tripucka himself grew up in Bloomfield, New Jersey, and was a 3-year starter from 1974 to 1977 for the Bloomfield High School boys basketball team. In 3 seasons there, he scored 2,278 points, including a senior season that saw him score 1,045 points, ending up with his jersey being retired by Bloomfield High School, while also earning himself a high school parade All-American for his efforts his senior year. And later on down the line, he would even be named New Jersey High School Basketball Player of the Century. When it came time to decide what school to go to for college, it was very clear from the get-go for Kelly Tripucka. He would follow in his dad's footsteps and attend Notre Dame. Little did he know he would be joining a Notre Dame team that would go on to have 8 NBA players highlighted by names like Bill Laimbeer and Orlando Woolridge. Despite this, Kelly Tripucka would actually start right away for Notre Dame. Tripucka would go on to average 11.7 points, 1.3 assists, and 5.2 rebounds as a freshman this season, helping Notre Dame go 23-8, earning a spot in the NCAA tournament. Now, Notre Dame would cruise in its first 3 matchups, beating Houston, Utah, and DePaul, with Kelly playing a key part, being the team's leading scorers versus Utah and DePaul, and this would help set up a Final Four matchup against Duke. Kelly again would play solidly, being the second on the team this game in points with 12 and had 9 rebounds as well. Despite Tripucka's best efforts though, this game Notre Dame would fall just short to Mike Jaminski and Duke. This would arguably go down as the best Notre Dame basketball team of all time, with Tripucka playing a large part in making it happen while just being a freshman. With increased expectations on Notre Dame this next season, Kelly Tripucka would continue to improve. As a sophomore, Kelly Tripucka would lead Notre Dame in points at 14.3, while also averaging 4.3 rebounds and 1.6 assists a game, earning NCAA consensus second-team All-American in 1979, helping also improve the regular season record for Notre Dame, going 24-6, earning another spot in the NCAA tournament, this time as a number 1 seed, where Tripucka would lead Notre Dame in its first 2 victories against Tennessee and Toledo, scoring 21 and 24 points respectively. This would set up an Elite 8 matchup against Michigan State, where Michigan State would win soundly 80-68 thanks to some guy named Magic Johnson, who had 19 points and 13 assists, while also with the help of Greg Kelser, who went off this game for 34 points and would go on to win the national championship over Larry Bird this year. Now, Kelly Tripucka would struggle this game against Michigan State, only scoring 8 points. Kelly Tripucka would be more determined because of this, and it had an even more personal success his junior year, with averages again increasing to 18 points a game, which led the team, to go along with 6.6 rebounds and 2.2 assists. Now, Notre Dame would do solidly this season, but would take a dip from the prior year, going 22-6, earning a 4 seed in the tournament. This would earn Notre Dame a game where they would face Missouri in its first match, which was led throughout the season by future NBA players in Steve Stepanovich and Larry Drew. However, these were neither of the 2 players who Notre Dame would have fits with. That player would be Mark Dressler, who would only average 6.4 points his college career, but would go on to torch Notre Dame for 32 points this game. Despite this, it would be a tight game, with Notre Dame losing at the very end to Missouri 87-84, despite Tracy Jackson and Kelly Tripucka's best efforts. Tripucka would score 22 points this game and have 5 rebounds and 3 assists in the loss. Tripucka, his senior year, would put up similar numbers to the year, helping lead Notre Dame with 18.2 points a game, while being second on the team in rebounds at 5.8, as well as assists with 2.8. For his efforts, it would find him an NCAA's consensus second-team All-American again, on a Notre Dame team that went 23-6, earning a 2 seed in the NCAA tournament, where Notre Dame would win its first matchup, and then before facing the Cinderella team of BYU, creating a crazy game to follow. Tripucka would play solidly this game against BYU, being second on the team and scoring with 14 points in this low-scoring game. Kelly Tripucka would hit a late shot in this game with 9 seconds remaining to put Notre Dame up 1 point, seemingly playing the hero, before the future NBA All-Star Danny Ainge would drive the length of the court, scoring with 1 second left, giving BYU a 1-point victory, in what most considered to be an all-time highlight that is replayed every March in an instant classic of a game. This would end Tripucka's college career, which would go down as one of the best in school history for Notre Dame. Kelly Tripucka would go on to be selected 12th overall by the Detroit Pistons in the 1981 NBA draft, and joining him in Detroit would be fellow first-round pick and future Hall of Famer Isaiah Thomas, where he proved to belong right away in the NBA. Tripucka would start all 82 games, averaging 21.6 points, 5.4 rebounds, and 3.3 assists as a rookie, earning himself a rare feat of being an all-star his rookie year alongside his teammate Isaiah Thomas. The new duo for Detroit helped improve the Pistons' record overnight by 18 wins to 39-43. Tripucka would only build off his rookie season next year, increasing his numbers to 26.5 points a game, 4.1 assists, and 4.6 rebounds, while leading the league in minutes played at 38.8. Unfortunately for Tripucka, he would only play in 58 games, missing important time due to injuries, and this hurt Detroit this season as they would take a step back to 37-45, but with Tripucka playing fully healthy, who knows, they may have possibly ended up making the playoffs this season. Next year would be a healthy one for Kelly Tripucka and the Detroit Pistons, and Tripucka would average 21.3 points a night to go with 4 rebounds and 3 assists, all the while earning himself a second NBA All-Star appearance. Yet the highlight of the season for him would be his record-breaking game. Kelly Tripucka would go on to score a team record 56 points to lift the Detroit Pistons to a 128-126 victory over the Chicago Bulls, all while playing sick with the flu. During this game, Tripucka would hit on 18 of his 26 field goal attempts and 20 of 22 from the free throw line to break the old Pistons record of 54 points set by Dave Bing, also against the Bulls. Now, Detroit this season would go on to go 49-33, earning a 4th seed in the playoffs, in large part to Detroit's new young trio of Tripucka, Thomas, and Lambier, Tripucka's former college teammate, and new head coach Chuck Daly this year. Detroit Pistons would go on to face New York in the first round, led by Bernard King. The best-of-5 series against the Knicks would go back and forth the whole way, where Bernard King would will the Knicks over the top in 5, averaging 42.6 points per game in this series. Now, Tripucka would play well this whole series, being Detroit's leading scorer, averaging 27.4 points a night, 4.6 rebounds, and 3 assists to go along with 2.2 steals. Next year, Tripucka would play great for the Pistons again, but this time as a secondary option behind the growing Isaiah Thomas, where Kelly Tripucka would still average 19.1 points, 4 rebounds, 2.5 assists per game. However, he would struggle to stay healthy yet again, only playing in 55 games this season. Despite the injury this time, Detroit would go 46-36, getting a 4 seed in the playoffs again. And Kelly would be healthy and ready to go for the playoffs, where in the first round they would sweep the New Jersey Nets, getting a matchup next round against none other than the Boston Celtics, where Boston were the heavy favorites, being the defending champs led by Larry Bird. Despite this, Detroit would battle and play well this entire series, forcing it to go 6 games before losing. But they had put the league on notice that they were a legit threat for years to come, and Tripucka would play his role well this playoffs, averaging 14.8 points, 3.2 assists, and 4.3 rebounds. And on a Detroit team now looking to compete for a championship next year, Kelly would only increase and improve his averages back up to 20 points a night, 3.3 assists, and 4.3 rebounds. However, the Pistons would go 46-36, underachieving a little, getting the 5 seed this year, where they would face the Atlanta Hawks in what was anticipated to be a tight series. Yet Atlanta would advance 3-1, with only one final game being a close one, in large part due to Dominique Wilkins' dominance over the series, averaging 34.3 points. As per usual though, Kelly would at least play well, scoring high with 21.8 points a night to go with 5.8 rebounds and 2.3 assists. After the season was over and realizing the team's growth kind of stalled out this year, Detroit decided it was time for a trade, and Kelly Tripucka would be traded in the offseason by the Detroit Pistons with Ken Benson to the Utah Jazz for Adrian Dantley and 2 second-round draft picks, helping a disgruntled Adrian Dantley over his contract issues and issues with Frank Layden out of Utah, while giving the Pistons a high-scoring threat, whereas Tripucka would later go on to understand his struggles with Layden. In year 1 with the Utah Jazz, Tripucka would average 10.1 points, 3.1 rebounds, and 3.1 assists a night. Kelly Tripucka was not anywhere near as involved in the offense as he had grown accustomed to in Detroit, which caused some frustration for him personally. Now, the Jazz would play well as a team throughout, despite Tripucka's dip going on in numbers, would still go 44-38 with a young and forming core around Stockton and Malone. The Utah Jazz would get the 4 seed in a matchup against the 5-seeded Warriors led by Joe Barry Carroll, and this series would go the distance with Utah losing in 5, with the older core of Golden State prevailing in the end, with big play from Sleepy Floyd in particular. Now, Tripucka would start all 5 games this series, but would find his minutes reduced from the regular season. Henceforth, his averages would dip as well to 6.4 points, 0.6 assists, and 1.4 rebounds this series. Now, next season would only go worse for Tripucka. Kelly Tripucka would find himself losing his starting job midway through the year, causing him to only average 7.5 points, 2.1 assists, and 2.4 rebounds for the season. And this slipped even further for him as the season went along, becoming out of favor with then head coach Frank Layden, eventually not playing in games altogether to the bewilderment of Tripucka and most of the fan base. Tripucka was in the doghouse stuck behind Bob Hansen and the 5th round rookie that year in Bart Kofod. But despite this, Utah would perform well yet again, going 47-35, getting a 5 seed. In the playoffs, the Utah Jazz would win their first round matchup against Portland in 4 before setting up a second round matchup against the Los Angeles Lakers. Now, Los Angeles entered the series as heavy favorites, being the defending champions from the prior year. However, Stockton, Malone, and Bailey came ready to play. They would push this series to 7 games before losing it 4-3 overall, where the Lakers would go on to win it all again. But the Jazz had, like the Pistons years ago with Tripucka, proved that the young core was the future of the NBA. The great team growth was huge for the Utah Jazz. However, Tripucka played barely no part in it, being out of favor in Utah. He would only play 2 games in the postseason altogether, averaging 1 point in garbage time. After the season was complete, Utah realized Tripucka's time there was clearly up, especially considering he was technically one of the highest paid bench players in the league, not even playing anymore. Kelly Tripucka would be traded by the Utah Jazz to the Charlotte Hornets for Mike Brown, and this would be the Charlotte Hornets' first season in the NBA as an expansion team. Now, Tripucka would find his old form for Charlotte right away, leading the team in scoring with 22.6 points a game to go with 3.8 rebounds and 3.2 assists. Now, a key moment in the season for Tripucka would be the game against his former team, being the Utah Jazz. The Utah Jazz this season had seen Frank Layden resign from the head coaching duties during the year, and Karl Malone wanted to express his devotion to Layden by writing Frank on the heels of his sneakers for the game. Now, Tripucka would respond by writing Dick on the back of his shoes for then head coach Dick Harder. The move was seen as a clear jab at Layden and Malone, who Tripucka felt ran him out of town. However, the Utah Jazz would end up having the last laugh, winning the game. Now, Tripucka had returned to form this first year in Charlotte in every way, but the team struggled, going 20-62 to no one's surprise, as it was the first year in the NBA for the franchise. Now, Kelly Tripucka's role next season would shrink with the addition of Armin Gillian in the offseason and the continued growth of Del Curry. He was still a starter and a key figure on the team, averaging 15.6 points, 2.8 assists, and 4.1 rebounds a night. Yet again, the Hornets would struggle with only being in year 2 of existence, going 19-63. Now, the Hornets, however, would improve next season with the continued growth from its younger players, but this would mean less playing time for the older Tripucka so the youth could grow. Tripucka would come off the bench and play in 77 games, averaging 7 points, 2.3 rebounds, and 2.1 assists a night for a Charlotte team that would improve, but just slightly, to 26-56. Tripucka was a free agent in the offseason and couldn't find an NBA suitor, so Kelly decided to go overseas and sign with French national 1A club CSP Limoges for the 1991-92 season. However, he would only play in 7 league games where he would average 17.6 points per game before being replaced by fellow NBA player in Tim Legler. After this, Kelly Tripucka realized it was time to hang them up. Over his 10-year career in the NBA, Tripucka would average 17.2 points, 3.8 rebounds, and 3 assists a night. After his NBA playing days, he would find a successful career in broadcasting and has worked for the Detroit Pistons, New Jersey Nets, and the New York Knicks over a multitude of years in broadcasts. Now, Kelly Tripucka will always be remembered for being one of Notre Dame's all-time players, then heading to the Detroit Pistons, making the All-Star game as just a rookie, all while donning his stylish hair and mustache, making him another All-Star game later on down the line, also having a crazy flu game where he scored 56 points, a then-team record for the Detroit Pistons. Thank you for the entertaining career, Mr. Tripucka. Thanks for sticking around and watching this whole video on Kelly Tripucka. If you want to see any videos in the future on any NBA players' careers, leave a comment down below, no matter how random they may be. Thanks again for watching. This has been Skid Denver.